Have you ever felt the confusion of someone who cares deeply about you suddenly pulling back? It's a strange feeling, right? 1 minute they're showering you with attention, and the next they're distant or unresponsive. It's easy to assume that this means they've lost interest, but that's not always the case. In fact, their behavior could be a reflection of something much deeper, something related to their own emotions and internal struggles. Let's start by considering why this happens. One possibility is that they might be experiencing emotional overwhelm. When someone loves you deeply, they can become vulnerable, and sometimes that vulnerability leads them to withdraw as a form of self-protection. They might feel like they need space to process their emotions, or they could be afraid of becoming too dependent on you. Another reason could be that they're struggling with insecurity or fear of rejection. People who care deeply often overthink situations and wonder whether their feelings are reciprocated or if they're doing something wrong in the relationship. During these moments of doubt, they might pull back to regain a sense of control. It's also possible that they just need time to reflect on their own life goals or personal challenges. When we're in a relationship, it can sometimes be hard to maintain a sense of individuality, and taking a step back allows them to recalibrate. In any case, it's important to recognize that this behavior isn't necessarily a reflection of how they feel about you. In fact, it could be an indication that they care more than you realize. By understanding this behavior and not taking it personally, you can approach the situation with empathy and patience, fostering stronger, more honest communication in your relationship. Let's get started. Number 1. Fear of vulnerability. One of the biggest reasons someone who loves you might ignore you is a deep fear of vulnerability. When someone genuinely cares for you, they open themselves up emotionally, and that can feel incredibly risky. It's like standing out in the open with no armor, exposed to potential hurt or rejection. As much as they may love you, that exposure feels overwhelming. To cope with these feelings, they might withdraw or create distance as a defense mechanism. This fear of vulnerability isn't about you or the relationship. It's rooted in their own emotional history. People who have been hurt in the past often struggle with trusting others or letting their guard down. They know that the closer they get to someone, the more power that person has over their emotions, and the idea of losing control can be terrifying. Imagine this scenario. Someone has been through a painful breakup or betrayal. They've built walls around their heart as a way to protect themselves. Then they meet you, and things start getting serious. They can feel their emotions growing stronger, and suddenly the fear sets in. What if I let them in too much and end up hurt again? So, without warning, they pull back. They may stop texting as much or become less responsive, even though they still care deeply. It's not about you or your worth. It's about their struggle to balance love with the fear of vulnerability. They might think that a little distance will protect them from getting hurt. Ironically, the very love they feel for you can trigger this instinct to withdraw, because the more they care, the more exposed they feel. If you've listened this far, please leave a comment. I'm strong. Number 2. The push-pull dynamic. Another common reason someone who loves you might ignore you is due to the push-pull dynamic. This emotional pattern is often seen in relationships where one person alternates between getting close and then pulling away. This can be confusing and frustrating, especially if you don't understand what's driving the behavior. However, this dynamic isn't necessarily a sign of disinterest. Instead, it reflects a complex interplay of emotional needs and fears that both parties are navigating. At the core of the push-pull dynamic is the tension between two opposing desires: the need for intimacy and connection, and the need for space and independence. One person may feel an intense desire to get close and grow closer to their partner, but then, as the relationship deepens, they may begin to feel overwhelmed or trapped. This feeling of being too close or too dependent on another person can create a subconscious need to pull back and regain their personal space. On the other hand, when they pull away, they might feel a sense of loss or emptiness. This longing for connection makes them reach out again, which creates the cycle of push and pull. It's as if they can't fully settle into the closeness they desire, but they also feel lonely and disconnected when they create distance. This back and forth pattern is emotionally exhausting for both people involved, but it's often driven by deep-seated fears of being overwhelmed or losing personal identity within the relationship. For someone caught in the push-pull dynamic, they may also struggle with their own feelings of self-worth. They might crave emotional closeness, but when they feel it coming too strongly, they might question whether they deserve that closeness or if the relationship is healthy. As a result, they might pull away to test their partner's feelings or to protect themselves from feeling vulnerable or exposed. This behavior might stem from insecurities about being too much or fears of suffocating the other person. The push-pull dynamic can also be related to attachment styles. People with an anxious attachment style may have a strong desire for closeness and reassurance, but they may also fear abandonment. When they sense their partner becoming distant, they might react by clinging tighter, pushing for more closeness. This can then cause the partner, particularly someone with an avoidant attachment style, to feel overwhelmed and pull away, perpetuating the cycle. Another reason for this dynamic is the unconscious drive to test the strength of the relationship. Sometimes, when someone loves you deeply, they may pull away to see if you'll chase after them or continue to pursue the relationship despite the distance. They might be testing whether your feelings for them are genuine and strong enough to withstand emotional fluctuations. This can be particularly true in situations where someone has been hurt in the past or has unresolved trust issues. By pulling away, they might want to see if their partner will still pursue them, proving that the love is real and lasting. If you find yourself on the receiving end of this behavior, it's important to understand that the person isn't necessarily pulling away because they don't care for you. They might be caught in an internal struggle between their emotional needs for intimacy and their fears of being overwhelmed. The best way to navigate this dynamic is to maintain a balance of patience, communication, and boundaries. Offering the space they need while also expressing your own emotional needs can help break the cycle. With time and understanding, the person may be able to find a healthier balance between emotional connection and personal autonomy, leading to a more stable and fulfilling relationship. In relationships characterized by the push-pull dynamic, it's crucial to remember that this behavior isn't necessarily a sign of instability or rejection. Rather, it reflects the complex emotional landscape of someone who may be struggling with the delicate balance between intimacy and independence. Recognizing this dynamic can help you understand their behavior with greater empathy and avoid taking their actions personally. Over time, with patience and open communication, the cycle can be broken and a healthier, more secure relationship can be built. Number 3. Self-doubt and insecurity. Self-doubt and insecurity are powerful emotions that can lead someone to unintentionally withdraw from a relationship, even when they love their partner deeply. These feelings often stem from a lack of self-worth or fear of not being good enough, which can manifest in emotional withdrawal or periods of silence. When someone loves you but ignores you, it's often not about you at all. It's a reflection of their inner struggles with their own self-esteem. A person who experiences self-doubt may feel as if they're not worthy of love or affection, even when their partner is clearly showing care and commitment. This internal conflict can cause them to second-guess the relationship, or even distance themselves to avoid feeling vulnerable or exposed. They may question their ability to meet their partner's expectations or fear that they will eventually be rejected. These fears can be overwhelming, and rather than expressing their concerns, they may pull away or go silent as a defense mechanism. The fear of being judged or not measuring up to their partner's standards can make them hesitant to open up. They may worry about being a burden or causing disappointment by expressing their needs or insecurities. As a result, they might choose to withdraw and process their feelings alone, rather than risk revealing their vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, this can lead to emotional distance, leaving their partner feeling confused or unsure of where they stand. In some cases, this insecurity may be rooted in past experiences, such as childhood trauma, previous failed relationships, or a lack of validation from others. If someone has been hurt or abandoned in the past, their fear of being rejected can be amplified. They may unintentionally push their partner away as a way of protecting themselves from potential heartache, even if their partner has shown nothing but love and support. The key to understanding this behavior is realizing that someone with self-doubt and insecurity is often dealing with an internal struggle. Their withdrawal isn't a reflection of how they feel about you, but rather a reflection of their own fears and vulnerabilities. If you are able to recognize this, you can approach the situation with patience and empathy. Offering reassurance, expressing understanding, and giving them space to work through their insecurities can help them feel more secure in the relationship, allowing them to open up and reconnect with you. Number 4, fear of losing you. The fear of losing someone can be a powerful motivator in a relationship, and paradoxically, it can sometimes lead people to pull away or act distant. When someone is deeply invested in you and loves you, they may have an underlying fear that their feelings might not be reciprocated, or that they might lose you for some reason. This fear can trigger an emotional defense mechanism where they distance themselves, not out of lack of affection, but as a way to protect themselves from the potential heartbreak of losing you. When someone loves you but starts ignoring you or pulling back, they may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions. Their fear of rejection or abandonment can become so consuming that instead of reaching out for reassurance or expressing their concerns, they retreat into themselves. This withdrawal can feel like a paradox. They pull away because they're afraid of getting too close, yet they do this in an effort to avoid the pain of possible rejection or loss. The fear of losing you may stem from several factors. For example, someone who has experienced heartbreak or abandonment in the past may be particularly vulnerable to this fear. If they've been hurt before, they may expect history to repeat itself and pull back as a way of preemptively protecting themselves from the emotional pain of losing someone they care about. In addition, this fear can sometimes be amplified by personal insecurities or worries about not being good enough. If someone has doubts about their own worthiness or is worried they won't meet your expectations, they may fear that you might eventually leave them. Rather than confronting these feelings directly, they might distance themselves, hoping that this space will give them the emotional distance they need to cope with the anxiety of losing you. Understanding that this behavior is rooted in fear rather than a lack of love can help prevent misunderstandings. If your partner's withdrawal is due to the fear of losing you, it's important to approach the situation with empathy and reassurance. Reaffirming your commitment to the relationship while giving them the space they need can help them feel secure and prevent them from pulling away further. Number 5, the need for independence. Even in the deepest and most loving relationships, the need for independence remains a crucial part of being human. It's easy to assume that love means constant togetherness, but in reality, everyone needs some space to maintain their own identity and sense of self. When someone loves you, they may still crave time alone or desire moments to focus on their personal interests, goals, or friendships. This need for independence is not a reflection of disinterest or detachment, but a natural, essential aspect of human psychology. Imagine this. Someone you care about begins to pull back for a while, and you start to wonder if something is wrong. They aren't being cold or distant out of lack of affection. They are simply taking time to recharge and reconnect with themselves. Just as we need rest to perform well at work or in school, we also need emotional space to stay grounded and maintain a sense of balance in relationships. When someone feels like they're losing touch with their individuality, they might distance themselves as a way of reconnecting with who they are outside the relationship. This could involve spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying solitude. By giving them this space, you are not losing them, but rather helping them preserve their emotional strength so they can return to the relationship with renewed energy and focus. In any relationship, maintaining a sense of independence is essential for personal growth and emotional well-being. If one person feels suffocated or unable to express themselves outside of the relationship, it can lead to frustration, resentment, and burnout. Love, therefore, is not about constant proximity, but about respecting each other's need for space and individuality. Understanding the need for independence in a relationship helps prevent misunderstandings. When one partner pulls away, it doesn't always signal problems within the relationship. Instead, it can be a sign that they are taking care of themselves and ensuring that they can continue being a strong and present partner. By acknowledging and respecting this need, you contribute to a healthier, more balanced connection. Number 6. Testing their own feelings. At times, when someone loves you deeply, they may pull away, not because they want to distance themselves from you, but to test their own emotions. This may seem counterintuitive, but it's an important part of how some people process their feelings in relationships. When someone experiences intense emotions, especially early on in a relationship, they might want to pause and assess whether their feelings are genuine or simply a passing infatuation. Imagine you've been seeing someone for a while and everything seems to be going well, but suddenly they become distant or even silent for a period. You might begin to worry. What did you do wrong? Are they losing interest? The truth is, their withdrawal often has nothing to do with you. Instead, they might be giving themselves space to reflect on the depth of their emotions. This step back helps them confirm whether their feelings are genuine, lasting, and not just a temporary attraction. When people feel deeply, they can become overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions. Rather than dive headfirst into those feelings, they may instinctively withdraw to get some clarity. This time apart gives them the opportunity to assess their emotions. How often do they think about you? How strongly do they feel? And most importantly, are these feelings going to last? This period of reflection allows them to understand if their connection with you is rooted in something real or if it's just the excitement of the moment. Once they've sorted through their feelings and gained confidence in their emotions, they often return, sometimes even more committed than before. This space is not a rejection. It's a necessary step for them to ensure that they are truly invested and that their feelings are lasting. The brief distance helps them reaffirm their attachment and emotional readiness. Recognizing this behavior can ease the confusion when someone pulls away. It's important to understand that they are not testing you directly. They are testing their own emotions, seeking to confirm that what they feel is authentic. Once this emotional check-in is complete, they often come back with renewed clarity and a stronger commitment to the relationship. Number 7. The silent love approach. For some people, love is expressed not through constant words or grand gestures, but through subtle actions and the space they give. This approach, often referred to as the silent love approach, might initially be confusing, especially if you're used to frequent communication or expressions of affection. However, for those who adopt this style, pulling away or remaining silent can actually be their way of showing deep respect and care. Imagine being in a relationship where someone seems to pull back, not offering the usual words of affirmation or physical closeness. At first glance, this might feel like emotional distance or disinterest, but for some, it is a deliberate choice to give you the freedom to be your own person. They may feel that by not crowding you, they're offering you the space to grow, pursue your interests, and thrive independently, something they believe is essential for a healthy and balanced relationship. In their mind, by not constantly being present or overly involved in every aspect of your life, they are actually showing their love. This space isn't about detachment or disengagement, but about respecting your individuality and fostering trust. They want you to feel secure in your autonomy, believing that true love doesn't need to be constantly verbalized or visible. Instead, it can be demonstrated by allowing each person to flourish without feeling smothered. For these individuals, the silent love approach is about creating a comfortable environment where both partners can live their lives as separate yet interconnected beings. They might not always express their affection verbally, but their actions, such as quietly supporting your ambitions or stepping back when needed, show their commitment in a deeper, non-verbal way. While this may not always be easily understood, especially if you're someone who values frequent affirmation, understanding this approach can lead to greater emotional clarity. It's important to realize that this silence is not an indication of disinterest, but rather a profound form of love that values your independence while also maintaining a secure bond. The silent love approach, when understood, can become a beautiful, unspoken form of communication that nurtures trust and respect in the relationship. Number 8. Handling conflicts. Internally. Sometimes when someone loves you, they might choose to handle conflicts or personal struggles internally rather than bringing them into the relationship. This behavior is rooted in a desire to protect both themselves and the relationship. They may be dealing with something challenging, whether it's work stress, family issues, or emotional difficulties. Instead of sharing those burdens with you right away, they pull back to process everything on their own. Imagine your partner suddenly becomes distant, not responding as quickly or withdrawing from conversations. You might wonder if something is wrong between you two, but often this withdrawal is more about them trying to protect you from their own emotional turmoil. They may fear that sharing their struggles or venting their frustrations will burden you or create unnecessary tension in the relationship. In their mind, pulling away temporarily is a way of keeping the relationship safe and free from external stress. They might feel that by dealing with their issues on their own, they can keep the relationship strong without dragging you into their personal battles. It's a way of maintaining stability and not letting external problems affect the bond you share. Their silence or distance in this case isn't about rejection. It's about self-preservation and wanting to solve their issues before they impact the relationship. Once they've had the time to sort through their struggles, they may return to you, often feeling relieved and more ready to engage. Understanding this can help you realize that their withdrawal isn't a reflection of how they feel about you, but rather an attempt to shield you from their inner conflict and protect the relationship from unnecessary strain. Number 9. What you can do. Embrace patience and boundaries. So what can you do if someone you care about seems to ignore you, even though you know they love you? First and foremost, understand that their behavior often stems from their own psychology, not anything you've done wrong. People have different ways of coping with emotions, fears, and insecurities, and sometimes their withdrawal is a reflection of what's happening inside them, not a sign of disinterest or rejection. The key here is patience. It can be difficult not to take their distance personally, especially if you're used to constant communication and closeness. But recognizing that their need for space isn't a reflection of your worth can help you approach the situation with more empathy. It's also important to give them the time they need to process their own feelings, whether it's a moment of self-reflection, a struggle with vulnerability, or a desire for independence. However, while patience is crucial, it's also important to set boundaries for your own emotional well-being. You deserve respect and clarity in the relationship, and while it's okay to give space, it's not okay to feel neglected or unsure for long periods. Communicate openly when they're ready and let them know that while you respect their need for space, you also need the same respect in return. Let them know how their behavior makes you feel and ensure that your needs in the relationship are also being met. Setting healthy boundaries allows you to maintain your own sense of self while also being supportive of their needs. It's about finding a balance between empathy for their emotional space and advocating for your own well-being. So remember, if someone who loves you is ignoring you, it's usually more about their inner world than about you. Human psychology is complex, and sometimes the ones who care the most are the ones who pull back the hardest. Understanding these reasons can give you peace of mind and help you navigate these confusing moments. If this video helped you understand why someone who loves you might be ignoring you, give it a like, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and don't forget to comment and subscribe. Let's keep exploring the fascinating ways human psychology affects our relationships.